This is the Music Halls of Fame podcast. This week we honor the year 2013 along with a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2013. We also look at the case for putting Destiny's Child into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and our Spotlight Hall of Fame is the Canadian Music Hall of Fame in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Before we get going with the podcast, like everyone tells you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll know when these podcast episodes drop, which is usually every Thursday. Now, on to this week's episode. The year was 2013. Beyoncé reunited with the rest of Destiny's Child during her halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Then, in late December, she surprise dropped her album Beyoncé with zero advance publicity. Stone Temple Pilots lead singer Scott Weiland was fired from the band and was replaced for a while by Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. In hip-hop, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis were the big artists with songs Thrift Shop and Can't Hold Us. Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne, Drake, Jay-Z, Pitbull, Eminem, Whale, and J. Cole also had big years. In country music, 2013 marked the year that Taylor Swift ended her country period with her album Red. Her next album, 1989, would move her into a more pop era. Country was still strong with acts like Blake Shelton, Florida Georgia Line, Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Little Big Town, Eric Church, Lady Antebellum, now known as Lady A, Hunter Hayes, Darius Rucker, the band Perry, and Tim McGraw, all having good years. In Latin music, the big artists were Jenny Rivera, Marc Anthony, Romeo Santos, Prince Royce, and Daddy Yankee. In dance music, EDM was in full swing in the mainstream, with EDM artists regularly cracking the pop and dance charts to go along with the usual pop and R&B artists who were normally found on the dance charts. 2013 was the year that Bauer broke through with the hit Harlem Shake thanks to the viral video trend that surrounded the song. Avicii's Wake Me Up moved him into the mainstream and into the top 10 on the pop charts, along with Daft Punk's Get Lucky. Other dance anthems of the year that came from EDM artists included Emily Sandy's Next to Me, Fatboy Slim's Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat, Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike's Mammoth, Alesso and One Republic's If I Lose Myself, Dubs and Bourget's Tsunami, Showtek's Booyah, Martin Garrix's Animals, Oliver Heldens' Gecko, Tegan and Sarah's Closer, Vessie's We Are Young, Tiesto's Red Lights, Cedric Gervais's remix of Lana Del Rey's song Summertime Sadness, Zed's Clarity, David Guetta's Work Hard, Swedish House Mafia's Don't You Worry Child, and Icona Pop's I Love It. Some of the biggest albums of the year were Daft Punk's Random Access Memories, Rihanna's Unapologetic, Mumford & Sons' Babel, Pink's The Truth About Love, Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP2, Katy Perry's Prism, Lady Gaga's Art Pop, Lords' Pure Heroine, Bruno Mars's Unorthodox Jukebox, Florida Georgia Line's Here's to Good Times, One Direction's Take Me Home, Drake's Nothing Was the Same, Beyonce's Beyonce, although that was very late in the year, Blake Shelton's Based on a True Story, Luke Bryan's Crash My Party, Imagine Dragons' Night Visions, Tyler the Creator's Wolf, Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail, Justin Timberlake's The 2020 Experience, 21 Pilots' Vessel, and Chance the Rapper's Acid Rap. The soundtrack to the movie Frozen came out late in 2013 but got mega popular in 2014. Singles-wise, 2013 was the year of Daft Punk, who ruled the charts with their smash hit song Get Lucky. Robin Thicke became big with his song Blurred Lines, but then was sued and lost the lawsuit in 2015 to Marvin Gaye's estate, when the estate said that Blurred Lines was too close to Marvin's 1970s classic song, Got to Give It Up. Other hits from 2013 included Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball, Katy Perry's Roar, Lords' Royals, Avicii's aforementioned song Wake Me Up, Macklemore's Can't Hold Us and Thrift Shop, and Drake's Started From the Bottom, along with the novelty song What Does the Fox Say from the duo Elvis. Elvis spelled with a Y, not an E. Bands that formed in 2013 included BTS, the Brothers Osborne, GRL, Pup, and Run the Jewels. Bands that fell apart in 2013 included A Tribe Called Quest, My Chemical Romance, Climax, the Swedish House Mafia, Girls Aloud, the Jonas Brothers, and Prince and the New Power Generation. At least half of those bands got back together again within a decade. Bands that reformed in 2013 itself included All Saints, Danity Kane, Black Flag, The Calling, Jurassic 5, Fall Out Boy, King Crimson, 9 Inch Nails, Violent Femmes, and TLC. Famous musical deaths in 2013 included singer Patti Page, singer Patty Andrews of the Andrews Sisters, Ray Manzarek of The Doors, entertainer extraordinaire Miss Annette Funicello, Chrissy Amphlett of the Divinals, Joey Covington of Jefferson Airplane, country singer Mindy McCready, singer Tony Sheridan, pianist extraordinaire Mr. Van Cliburn, rapper Lil Snoop, guitarist Alvin Lee of 10 Years After, Alan Myers of Devo, Corey Monteith of the Glee TV series, drummer Clive Burr of Iron Maiden, pianist Don Shirley, folk singer Richie Havens, country singer George Jones, blues singer Bobby Blue Bland, singer J.J. Cale, Chris Kelly of Criss Cross, Pete Haycock of the Climax Blues Band, keyboardist George M. Duke, singer Edie Gourmet of the duo Steve and Edie, Philip Chevron of the Pogues, Jan Kuhneman of Vixen, Jeff Hanneman of Slayer, jazz pianist Cedar Walton Jr., Lou Reed of the Velvet Underground, jazz drummer and bandleader Chico Hamilton, and singer-songwriter Ray Price. At the Grammy Awards, Daft Punk became the first EDM act to win Album of the Year for Random Access Memories. Get Lucky won the French duo Record of the Year. Song of the Year went to Lords' Royals, and 2013 was the year that Macklemore and Ryan Lewis beat out Kendrick Lamar for Best New Artist. An extremely controversial decision, to be nice about it. At the MTV Video Music Awards, Justin Timberlake's Mirrors won Video of the Year. At the American Music Awards, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Florida Georgia Line were the big winners. At the Billboard Music Awards, Justin Timberlake, Miley Cyrus, Lorde, and Robin Thicke were the big winners. At the Eurovision Singing Contest that was held in Sweden, Denmark won for the song Only Teardrops. At the Tony Awards, Kinky Boots won Best Musical, and Pippin won Best Revival of a Musical. The winners of the Pulitzer Prize for Music were Carolyn Shaw for Partita for 8 Voices, Aaron J. Kearness for Pieces of Winter Sky, and Wadada Leo Smith for 10 Freedom Summers. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony took place on April 18, 2013 at the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles, California. The Hall inducted record producer and executive Lou Adler and producer and songwriter Quincy Jones both into the non-performers category. In the performers category, the Hall inducted Heart, Randy Newman, Public Enemy, Donna Summer, Rush, and this next artist. Albert King was born in Mississippi. That much is known. As with most of the great early blues guitarists, the truth as to where and when he was born gets a little tricky. Depending on when you asked him, he was or wasn't born on a cotton plantation. He was or wasn't born in Indianola. He was or wasn't born in Aberdeen. He was or wasn't the half-brother of B.B. King. And he was born either in 1923 or 1924. What is known is that his original name was Albert Nelson. and he changed his last name to King in order to be associated with BB. His first guitar was made out of a cigar box, a stick, and also a broom wire. Once he got an actual guitar, he taught himself how to play it since he was left-handed. He worked in construction until he started making money as a musician. Albert moved to Osceola, Arkansas, and joined a group called the Groove Boys, where he learned a lot about the Delta blues, which affected his style. He then went to Gary, Indiana, and worked in Jimmy Reed's band for a couple of years, recording both for Jimmy's band and his own music before going back to Arkansas and rejoining the Groove Boys. In 1956, he went to live near St. Louis, Missouri, where he joined his own band and toured the St. Louis club and bar circuit, where he met musicians Ike Turner and Chuck Berry. He started recording for Little Milton on Milton's Bobbin record label and then caught the attention of King Records, appropriately enough, where he cut his first big hit, Don't Throw Your Love on Me So Strong. That song went to number 14 on Billboard's R&B chart. He continued recording in St. Louis without much success after that, but then magic happened. Albert moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and signed to Stax Records and started teaming up with Booker T and the MGs on different songs. His 1967 album, Born Under a Bad Sign, and the title track from that album are some of the most influential blues songs and albums ever covered. King did a different style of blues for his Stax recordings by making them sound more R&B sounding rather than making them sound like traditional blues. King recorded with Stax Records until they filed for bankruptcy in 1975. After that, King didn't enjoy as much success, although he did get a Grammy nomination for a live album that he released in 1983, and also won in 1984 for his album I'm in a Phone Booth, Baby. Albert continued touring right up until he passed away from a heart attack in 1992, only 2 days after playing a gig in Los Angeles. Albert left behind a legacy as being one of the most influential guitarists of all time, influencing guitarists like Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Albert Collins, Otis Rush, Mick Taylor, Derek Trucks, Warren Haynes, Mike Bloomfield, and Joe Walsh. Rolling Stone magazine named him the 13th greatest guitarist of all time. Albert has been inducted into numerous halls of fame like the Blues Hall of Fame, the St. Louis Walk of Fame, the Mississippi Blues Trail, the Memphis Music Hall of Fame, and also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Presented for induction by John Mayer. Albert King, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, class of 2013. Before we get to the rest of the podcast, we'd like to tell you about our other podcast, the Music History Today podcast. Every day we tell you what happened on that date in music history, along with music releases, birthdays, and passings. So, if you like this podcast and want more music history, then please search the Music History Today podcast in audio or video form on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from. This week, we are going to look at the case for putting one of the artists who will be eligible for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the first time in 2023, Destiny's Child. Let's check the resume of the most successful American girl group of all time and see if it is hall-worthy, and we'll concentrate strictly on them and not Beyonce, who I think will definitely be in as a solo artist when she becomes eligible. To the tail of the tape we go. Destiny's Child put out 5 studio albums. Of those, 3 of them went top 5, with Survivor going to number 1 and Destiny Fulfilled going to number 2. All of them went platinum, including their first album, which initially did not sell well, and their Christmas album, which also initially didn't sell well. The Writings on the Wall, which went to number 5, is their biggest selling album with over 8 million copies sold in America alone. Survivor sold 4 million copies in America, Destiny Fulfilled sold 3 million, and the Christmas album and their first album went platinum once they became popular as a group. As far as their singles went, they released 17 of them. Of those, all but 4 of them went top 40, and of the 13 that did go top 40, all but 3 of those went to the top 10, with 4 going to number 1, 1 going to number 2, and 4 going to number 3. Sales-wise, 3 of their singles went gold, 9 went platinum, and Say My Name went triple platinum, easily their biggest selling single. They were nominated for 14 Grammy Awards, sold over 60 million copies worldwide, and are still considered one of the biggest selling and greatest singing groups of all time. As far as their chances of being nominated for induction in their first year, I think that they stand a pretty decent chance. The only group that you can actually compare them to in both scope and influence is Diana Ross and the Supremes, and that group's been in the Hall for decades now. Plus, even if you attempted to take Beyoncé's influence out of the equation, you really can't, because she is one of the most influential artists of the past quarter century, and that influence started when she was in Destiny's Child. I'm not sure that they will get in on the first ballot this year in 2023, but they do deserve to eventually be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In America, the main lobby group for the recording industry and the one who gives out the Grammy Awards is the Recording Academy. Its Canadian equivalent is the Canadian Academy for the Recording Arts and Sciences. Their version of the Grammys are the Juno Awards. In 1978, the Canadian Academy started inducting groups into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. The physical hall was opened in 2016 as a part of the National Music Center on Level 5 of Studio Bell on 850 4th Street Southeast in Calgary, Alberta. The center is open Thursday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The price of admission is to pay what you can. As with everything these days, of course, check with their website for COVID restriction information just in case that starts up again. StudioBell.ca is its website. Unlike the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which normally has 6 or more artists inducted every year, depending on various category committees, the Canadian Hall of Fame usually only inducts one group into its hall per year. In fact, it's only inducted more than one artist per year 6 times since 1978. There are some artists, though, who have shamefully not been inducted, so we thought we'd make the case for putting one of those artists into the hall. He is the most influential EDM Canadian artist who is not named Deadmau5 or Rez. Deadmau5 isn't eligible for another few years, by the way. No, this particular artist is a DJ, producer, and record label owner who was there at the beginning of techno and shows no signs of stopping. He's recorded under many aliases such as Plastic Man, Concept One, Forcept One, Jack Master, Richard Michaels, Xenon, Chrome, and many more. He is Richie Houghton. Richie was actually born in Oxfordshire, England on June 4, 1970, but moved to LaSalle, Ontario, Canada when he was young. It was his dad who turned him on to electronic music, making him listen to electronic pioneers' Kraftwerk. Also, it helped that since his dad worked for General Motors in nearby Detroit, Michigan, Richie was exposed to techno music, which was beginning to make itself known outside of Belleville, Michigan, where techno was born. Towards the end of his teenage years, Richie was DJing in techno clubs in Detroit. It was the beginning of the techno era. Richie helped pioneer the acid techno and minimal techno styles. He started his own record label called Plus 8 back in 1989, Emnus Records in 1998, and another label in Berlin in the mid-2000s. Under his many aliases, he's put out 17 albums, countless compilation albums and singles, and has just come out with a live album. He's been nominated for 17 International DJ Awards, winning 3 of them. He's also started a technology company called Play Differently and is one of the most respected people in the recording industry. And yet, even though he helped to push the second wave of techno music into the mainstream and is extremely influential to this day because of it, plus his charitable and entrepreneurial endeavors, the Canadian Music Hall of Fame has yet to put him in. Could it be that they don't consider EDM to be a real form of music, or maybe they just don't take it seriously, just like the way that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't take it seriously? Could be. Either way, the Canadian Music Hall of Fame should do the right thing and induct Richie Hawtin into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And that is it for this episode of the Music Halls of Fame podcast. For more podcast episodes, which drop every Thursday in audio and video form, then please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, CastBox, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from.